Hi guys, Belladonna Black here, and here are 5 true creepy stories from the subreddit Let's Never Meet. So turn off the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Number 1. So my small 16-year-old girl, who's around 5 foot 3 inches, and although I don't count myself as being great looking, I wouldn't say I'm ugly. One day my friend and I were in the city, walking around. I should mention she's even smaller than me, and quite slim and very pretty. We were both wearing short skirts and quite tight-fitting shirts. We weren't looking for attention or anything like that, but it was a hot summer's day in Australia, and that was the fashion style we both have. As I said, we were walking around the city when I asked my friend to come into my favourite underground comic book store with me so I could buy a few Spider-Man comics. Being a girl, I'm used to getting looked at in comic book stores, so when a few guys looked at us when we walked in, I wasn't surprised. But I just chose my comics, paid, and started walking up the stairs to leave the store, with my friend trailing behind. As I walked up the stairs, I noticed the man walking down the stairs. I didn't think much of it, but he gave off a creepy vibe. I didn't notice, but he must have turned round and started following us up the stairs. Thinking back, he was probably looking up my friend's skirt. That perv. Anyway, my friend and I turned right to continue walking down the mall, and I was talking about taking some photos of the street art in the alleyways for my Instagram page. My friend agreed, but also pointed out that the man that turned round on the stairs at the comic book store was following, a couple of metres behind us. I didn't think much of it. Maybe he was just walking the same way as us? We stopped off in the alleyway, and my friend took some photos of the art with her camera. I looked out towards the mall and saw the man leaning against the pole and pretending to be on his phone, but looking straight at us. This is when I got a good look at him. He was mid-40s and very skinny. He had balding hair and was wearing a grey tracksuit. I definitely never judge people on looks or first impressions, but with this guy, there was definitely something off about him. Maybe it was the way he was looking at my friend, or just his seedy smile. I still don't know. I told my friend that we should leave, and I pulled out my phone, telling her I should call my mum, just so he can see that I have my phone with me, but she didn't answer my call. We kept walking, and although I was scared shitless, we were joking about it, just to ease the tension. What could he do? We were in a crowded area, and a lot of people that worked in the shops knew me. I could take him out with one punch if he tried anything, right? We went in and out of a few shops just to see if we could lose him, but to no avail. He was always a few metres behind us. I was getting really scared, and I could tell that my friend was too. I called my closest male friend and left a voice message to the effect of, "We're going to come home soon. If I don't get home in the next hour, call my mum." I don't know how I thought this was going to help, but I wasn't thinking rationally. I wasn't even thinking about my own safety at this point. My whole focus was on keeping my friend safe. We walked into the middle of a huge crowd of people, hoping to lose the creep. We went down the escalators to the floor level. We looked behind us, and he seemed to be gone. We breathed a sigh of relief, but just as I was about to call my friend again to tell him not to worry, we saw him looking around. The fucking creep was looking for us. That's when I noticed that my friend was shaking. We saw a couple of cop cars parked not too far away in the street, but we headed straight for them. Nobody was in them. We turned to head into the quiet, high-class store, with a lot of people in there. We were standing behind a rack of clothes, and I heard my friend say, "I think we lost him." I feel relief and turned round to look at a jacket that I liked. I thought it was all over, and it was finally time to shop. Just as I was about to walk to the other aisle, my friend grabbed my hand tightly. "Don't turn round." But I saw him in the mirror. He's a couple of metres behind us, she said quietly to me. I started shaking, and she was rhythmically squeezing my hand. I walked up to a man working at the store and said, "Hello, this man has been following my friend and I for about 30 minutes now, and has followed us into multiple different stores." The man working there told us to go stand with another girl working at the store, and he called store security. By this time, the man had gotten away, but because we had got such a good look at him, he was caught and the cops were called. He was searched and arrested while my friend and I gave our statements. The police took down my number and we called our parents to pick us up. My friend started bawling her eyes out, crying because she was so terrified. A couple of days later, I got a call from the police telling me that they had found a knife and a rope in his bag. The man was taken to court and sentenced to 2 years in jail and charged with attempting kidnap. I never wear short skirts out anymore unless I'm with a guy or an adult. So please, creepy man in town, let's never meet. Number 2. This is kind of long, so settle in. So I've had a few creepy encounters of the close kind. This is my latest. About a year ago, I moved in with my elderly mum after she broke her foot during the summer. I left my hubs and teenage son in another city to do this. Fell in love with the town and persuaded them to close up shop and move to where I and my mum were living. All good. Teenage son was supposed to start the new school year. Husband will follow once he closed his business in the other city. But in the meantime, it was just me and my mum, a petite blonde woman and an elderly lady, living not exactly in the sticks, but a small town. So yeah, I guess I kind of stood out. It's all good. Then one morning I go out to get the paper and notice the gate to our house is open. I think it's weird, but nothing seems out of place. And then over the next 2 months I start to find cigarette butts showing up just outside the fence or in our driveway. Food wrappers and water bottles in the morning. I know these things weren't there the night before, and I know they weren't for me. I ask around and find the neighbours don't smoke. So nope, it's not them. And we do not live on a busy street where we get foot traffic either. And yeah, sometimes the gate is open, although I get more and more careful about shutting it, and finally end up putting a lock on it. Now, I'm kind of a suspicious person given other experiences, with 2 siblings encountering famous serial killers. Other stories for other days. I start to keep a close eye, and I make it a point to clean the stuff up every morning. At one point, I get aggravated and bag it up, then attach the bag to my fence with a note. Stop crapping my driveway and property up. I come out the next morning and there's dog pee on the tyre to my car and what looks suspiciously like human excrement right there by the driver's door. The car has an alarm I set at night, so I know no one touched it, but yeah, it's weird. I called the police to report a possible trespassing since the car is on my property behind the fence. They send an officer out. He says they can't do anything really, but he takes a statement anyways. After that, the trash stops for a while, and I think maybe someone saw the cops there and got scared. It's all good. And then one morning I go out and there's cigarette butts again, only this time out by my mailbox, and the trash starts to show up. What breaks me out is over the next 2 months it gets closer and closer, until yep, I'm finding cigarette butts by my fence again. I start waking up at night and looking outside just to see if I can catch anyone there, but no luck. I feel uneasy, but nothing is ever out of place. Even our newspaper that sits in the driveway is never touched. Just those cigarette butts and the occasional sandwich wrapper, a water bottle, like someone was out in my driveway eating and smoking, then left their stuff there for me to find. By this time, it's the fall, and then my teenage son arrives to start school. I sort of forget the whole thing in the mad rush to move him in and get him registered, and so on. He's been there a week when one morning I can't find my Bluetooth. My son is getting ready for school, we're late, and I'm exasperated. I decide I must have left it in the car. So I go out and I bent down digging around in the glove box for the lost Bluetooth in the car when I hear a voice right behind me. Hi there. I bolt right up so fast I bang my head on the car roof, then jump out. There's this guy I've never seen before in my life, standing about 3 feet away in my driveway. At his feet sits a small dachshund dog, and they're both just staring at me in this really weird way, like not moving a muscle. The guy is just grinning and kind of panting like he's excited, or has been running, except I didn't hear anyone running up. In fact, I have no idea where the hell they came from, and I'm in an open driveway where you can see and hear everything from the street. I rub my head and the guy just continues to stare and grin. This is really kind of a unnerving grin. No, I'm sorry. Are you okay? Or anything. Even though he saw and heard me bang my head hard and I'm rubbing it and glaring at him. Hi? What are you doing in my driveway? He just continues to grin, and then I see him reach into his pocket and fish out, you guessed it, dear readers, a cigarette. An exact same brand as the ones I've been finding in my driveway and by our fence. At this point, I'm freaking out inside, but I try to keep it together, and so I nod and shut the car door, then start to sort of walk back away towards the gate to my house. I'm kind of busy right now. Bye, I tell him, and then start to walk backwards towards my house, sort of keeping my eyes on him the whole time. He starts to follow me, dragging the damn dog with him. Now, mind you, all this time the dog hasn't moved a single muscle. It just stood there staring at me. No yapping, no tail wagging, no whining or pulling at the leash. And that in and of itself is just freaking weird. I've had dachshund dogs myself, and they are yappy little hyper boys and girls. But this thing looks almost like a stuffed doll. It's so still. It just kind of walks stiff-legged, with its tail between its legs, not taking its eyes off me the whole time. The guy is sort of trailing after me, still with that huge grin. Then he says, I'm on vacation. And at this point, I kind of lose it and snap. Well, Billy for you. Now vacate out of here. At this, he stops grinning and kind of blinks twice and gets a shocked look on his face, like he's a little kid who's just been yelled at. I tell him again, go on, get out of my driveway. And I raise my voice. His smile starts to falter, and then he gets the most dead-eyed blank stare on his face. Then he freaking giggles. Not like a girl, but like a total psycho. I'm going to wear your head for a hat lady chuckle. I'm not sure what would have happened next. But just then, my son steps out onto the porch and shouts, Hey, what's up? The guy looks past me to my son and gasps, then turns round and just takes off running down the street. And that damn creepy dog of his just runs alongside his creepy owner with his tail tucked under it, still not so much as a whimper. As I watch the guy stop at a run-down looking RV, parked down the street about 20 feet from my driveway, opens the passenger door, tosses the dog inside, and then jumps in and peels away from us down the street, then turns the corner so fast we hear the tyre squeal as he hits the main highway. Just for the record, my son is built like a linebacker and is often mistaken for 25, not the 15-year-old he was at that time. I silently cheer, and as the guy bolts away, I flip him off and shout, and don't come back. I tell my son what just happened, and he's like, whoa, maybe you should call the RV camp up the street. I bet the guy lives there. So I drive my son to school, all the while keeping one eye peeled for the RV. And then when I get home, I call the camp. Turns out they'd just evicted the guy the day before. By that description, he'd been living there for the last 2 months. The exact amount of time the cigarette butts and trash started showing up beside my driveway. Since that day, my driveway and fence have been clean of all cigarette butts and trash, and that creepy, I'm being watched, feeling is gone. I've never seen that RV, the guy or his little dog before, or since that day either. So creepy, I'm on vacation guy, and your little dog Toto too. Let's never meet again. Number 3. I grew up around my grandpa. He was in war before, and he taught me a lot of things. I could see through people. I could see what's in their souls. But other than my sense of the good and bad, the story takes place when I was 12. I was not a big girl then. Now I am 16. And I'm much bigger than I was when I was 12. Back to the backstory. This was before I had my dog Hugo. He saved my life in the last 2 stories from that guy in black during the middle of the freaking summer. Hugo was not even born when this story took place. But I had a beautiful black and brown Hens 57 dog. His name was Bullseye. Once again, this is the story of where the dog saves my life. A horse comes into the story as well. So, now is the story. Bullseye and I were simply taking a walk. I didn't have any weapons, by the way. I was close to the house, of course, but I was walking to my pond. As soon as I got there, though, Bullseye began to snarl into the trees, dismissing it as he had saw a squirrel. I looked back at the water and continued to skip rocks. Did I mention that I had 4 tamed racehorses in the pasture as well? No? Well, now you know. My favourite horse, 3, my dad names them by the way, walked towards the pond. He had a gash on his leg, which had been there for a few days. I had a tendency to talk to my animals when I was around them, especially when they were hurt and needed comforting. You want to see emotion in an animal. Talk to them. Tell that you love them and that they are good. I've always had success with animals when I talk to them. Even as I am writing this, my cat, Snickers, is asking for a cuddle, and I am telling her I will snuggle her into my blankets when I'm done writing the story. I actually still have 3, by the way. 3 was limping, and I got close to him. He understood what it meant when I walked up to him, so he stopped in his place. Hey, big boy, I cooed into his ear as I hugged my arms around his muzzle. 3 was a very silent horse, only making sound when he was scared or hungry. Sometimes if he were speaking with his mate, Brokeneck. We named her Brokeneck because, well, it's kind of obvious. Brokeneck and 3 had only birthed 1 foal, and we named him Onyx. Onyx and Brokeneck were kept in the stables. We owned a horse farm, by the way. 3 was free to roam because of the power he had over our herd of horses we had. Is your leg okay? I made my voice into a cuckoo voice, like a mother speaking to her child. 3 neighed for the first time in a long time. Hey girl, you like horses? I heard an unfamiliar man's voice. I was taken aback and jumped. Bullseye jumped in front of me. Yes sir, but you must leave. This is my property. I spoke as powerfully as I could. Oh, I see, but I'm your neighbour's husband. She wants to speak with you over some cookies. The man smiled. I could see right through it. I was a particularly small and skinny woman. I didn't look intimidating, but if you challenged me, you ended up in hospital. Oh really? Then what's your wife's name? I asked. Bullseye was a trained dog. He knew his commands, but I could see it in his snarl that he wanted to attack. I will call my neighbour Beth. Easy. Her name is Jenny. The man smiled. I shook my head. Wrong, sir. Please leave. I raised my hand. 3 neighed, a challenge. The man became aggravated. I swear on my life, dear, my wife must speak with you, he insisted. Taking my free hand, I snatched it away. Sir, go away, I screamed in his face, raising my hand in fists. Fine, be that way, the man said, taking my hips into his hands and dragging me. I screamed, I kicked and clawed. Bullseye, I yelled. Finally, I felt the man's hands disappear from me. I felt the ground under me. I jumped up and looked around. Bullseye had bit at the man and sent him running. 3 mowed him down, pounding his body with his huge hooves. 3, Bullseye, I called. They came off the man and ran to me. I watched the man disappear into the woods that surrounded my farm. If you ever come back, I'll kill you, I yelled at the man as his body was swallowed by the darkness of the trees. I rode 3 back to the stables, Bullseye following. Good boys, I cooed once more, holding my animals in my hand. Bullseye barked and licked my leg. I smiled. Dear creep who made a failed attempt to kidnap me, you better hope we never meet again. And if we do now that I'm 16 and have a 2015 Camaro pistol in my pocket knife, and my pit bull Hugo, you're gonna wish you were never, ever born. Number 4. This story happened when I was 17 years old. I was dating a 20-year-old, on and off boyfriend at the time. He was one of these guys who liked drinking alcohol and hanging out with the wrong crowds, and often would get in trouble with the law. I also knew he is not the person I want to be with, but he knew how to manipulate me and get my attention whenever I tried to leave him. He also had an ex-girlfriend who was harassing me by calling my home phone or waiting for me after I leave school just to call me names. Now to the story. It was spring. I was already broken up with this guy and I was preparing for my maths exam not to take extra lessons because maths wasn't my strongest subject, and I knew I had to work harder to pass that exam. One morning at 7 a.m, I received a call on my home phone. I didn't have a mobile phone at the time, and someone on the other end was whispering something so quiet that I couldn't understand, so I hung up, thinking nothing of it, and went back to sleep. But a few minutes later, the phone rings again. I answer, and as I listen, I hear someone crying and repeating my name. I said, "Hello, who is this?" At this point, I was already freaking out. Thought maybe some of my family members got in trouble and trying to reach me. I heard a man's voice, which wasn't familiar, and he said, "Is this Jess?" I said, "Yes, it's me. Who is this?" The man started saying something about my ex-boyfriend and that he needs to see me right now because he slit his wrists and that he tried to kill himself. I have to come. He used to cut himself when he was depressed sometimes, so I believed it. I was so confused, scared, and so many images went through my mind. I was so naive at the time that without much thinking, I said I would be there as soon as possible. I thought I'll go there, talk to him, and that I could call an ambulance. I just knew that I had to do something. The man gave me an unfamiliar address where I should arrive and said he would pay for the taxi. It was a red flag, and I felt something bad, but I mostly worried if my ex-boyfriend was okay and what condition he was in. I was planning to go see my teacher after that, so I took my book bag with me. I arrive, and some strange man greets me and said to hurry up, so I followed. As soon as I walked in, I could smell a strong alcohol smell. The man locked the door quickly. I asked where my ex was, and he said to come to the room. His face changed from worried to creepy, and he was grinning at me as I walked into the room. Then my heart just stopped. I saw 4 more men sitting there and drinking. My ex-boyfriend wasn't anywhere there, and I started shaking. Men were sitting there laughing at me, saying how dumb I was to believe it. For my ex-boyfriend, I was so scared that I couldn't scream or even say a word anymore. All I could think of was I'm going to be raped or killed. I made my way to the door, and the guy sitting on the couch jumped quickly, grabbed my arm and pinned me to the ground, saying, "I'm not leaving until this says so." I started crying and begging them to let me go, that I have to be meeting my teacher for maths lessons, and she will be looking for me if I don't show up. They laughed at me and said I have to prove that I'm really going to that lesson, so I took off my notes from my bag and started showing them. I had some hope that they would let me go, but I was very wrong. They started kicking me in the legs. One of the guys was standing in front of me with a hammer in his hands. They forced me to dance in the middle of the room for them, and if I don't do what they say, I'd be hit with the hammer. I cried and did what they said. I don't want to go into all details and conversations because it's too painful to remember. As they got bored, they said they were going to play poker, and if the particular guy wins the game, means I can leave. But if the other guys win, then I have to entertain them and do whatever they wanted. I was just sitting there crying and praying and looking around to find anything that I could use to escape. I almost lost my hope, and then there was a knock on the door. I thought to myself, that's it. Someone is there and I can scream for help. I did scream, but the guy who answered the door started laughing. I was in total disbelief when I saw that the girl who was dating my ex previously was coming into the room. She was drunk and angry. She kept telling me what a nice plan she made to lure me here, that I'm going to suffer now. I overheard her asking the guys to take me somewhere remote area, rape me and leave me there naked. I was paralysed with fear and thought I'm not going to make it out alive. These guys still kept playing poker and drinking, and the guy with the hammer who sat next to me started to fall asleep, so I thought it might be the only chance I could escape. I asked one of the guys if I could go to the kitchen and get some water and wash my face, because it was all swollen of crying, and surprisingly, he said yes. "Go wash your face, ugly bitch, and bring me more beer from the fridge." I slowly stood up because I didn't want to wake the guy with the hammer and walked into the kitchen. I opened a tap so it masked the other sounds and opened the window. I never felt so relieved. I climbed on the table and made my way through the narrow window. I jumped and ran as fast as I could. I reached a small post office, which was the only public place that I saw while running away. I was shaking and was in total shock. The lady called the police and I was safely returned home. I don't know what happened to any of them, but I never heard from them again. After this experience, I never trust anyone anymore and never answer any unknown numbers or talk to any strangers. I needed a psychologist's help for a while and developed anxiety. I never slept well after this, and it's been 15 years since this incident. I live in a different country now, but I will never forget this. Number 5. So this happened when I was 16, back in 2008. I was with my best friend who was 15 at the time. We were both females. A little backstory for those of you who don't know the area I'm about to speak of, just so you understand why my friend and I didn't give much thought to the idea. We live in Brisbane, Australia. The night previously to this encounter, we walked from the Brisbane CBD to Mount Gravatt, a suburb on the south side of the city. It was around a 5-hour walk, although through decent, relatively crimeless suburbs, and nothing came out of it. This night, however, we were visiting some male friends who lived in Kingston, a suburb in Logan, further south of Brisbane, which is very crime-ridden for Australia and filled with middle to underclass families and such. I had gotten into a disagreement with a guy I was seeing, and my friend and I decided we would walk back to Mount Gravatt from Kingston. It was around 1 a.m. at this point. Along our walk, we had an older man yell obscenities from his car. A bunch of kids threw a couple of eggs at us from another, and we slowly walked past a large German Shepherd, which was staring at us from the middle of the road. We were already feeling uneasy and questioning our decision to walk the rest of the way. When we reached the main road, there was a lot of shops, as well as many stoplights along it. As we started walking along this road, a red sedan was coming towards us and past us. We didn't think much of it at first, until the same red sedan passed us again, this time from behind us. As the car reached the closest set of lights, it did another U-turn. We realised by this point that something was wrong, and once the car had passed us for the third time, we started running towards the closest business that had a bunch of large shrubs in front of it. We ducked down and stayed incredibly still and too quiet ourselves, held our hands over our mouths, but I couldn't stop shaking. I was filled with so much adrenaline and fear. Unsurprisingly, the red sedan had done another U-turn, but this time the driver pulled over, literally only a short distance from the shrubs we were hiding behind. As we watched, a man, probably in his late 20s, came out the passenger side and started looking around. Whilst this was happening, another man, the driver, who looked to be in his 30s, hopped out. The two exchanged a few words to each other that we couldn't make out. After a few more minutes of what I consider a lazy search on their part, as we were only a few feet away, they finally jumped back into their vehicle and left. We sat there for a moment, shocked. We narrowly missed so many possibilities. Abduction, rape, death. Who knows? But after another 10 minutes of walking, we were so shaken up, we decided to flag down a taxi and chance the wrath of my parents, who would sure be furious when they had to pay for it. After that experience, unbelievably, they didn't deter my friend and I from taking any more 3 a.m. walks in dodgy neighbourhoods. Now that I'm 23 and I have a car, I'm frightened to walk more than 10 minutes through my neighbourhood after 11 p.m. So, to the men in the red sedan, whose intentions for a couple of 16-year-olds are unknown, let's never meet again. Hi guys, thanks for watching. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe to my channel. Also, you can check out my Facebook and my Twitter. Both links are found in the description below.